point. Thank you, Mr Chair.
The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Oh, kia ora, Mr Chair. Thank you for that. Excellent. I want to spend some time on section 157 and 158. 157 specifically refers to owners of one or more parcels of Māori freehold land may appoint a governance body for those parcels, with the exception of whenua tāpui. Minister, you did highlight that in your opening statements, but it's useful to go through and highlight what is whenua tāpui. It includes a papakainga housing site, marae, meeting place, recreation sports ground, bathing place, church site, building site, urupa, landing place, fishing ground, spring well, catchment area or other source of water supply, timber reserve, place of cultural or historical interest, a place of scenic interest, a place of special significance according to tikanga Māori, wāhi tapu or wāhi tupuna. So that's a very important exception in terms of where a governance body can exercise their roles. However, I want to focus specifically on clause 158. It seems to me, if people accept just pragmatically that those Māori trusts, whenua whānau trusts that are operating well will continue to operate well. Those smaller groupings of land holding interests, collective owners who are not organised, don't have a governance arrangement, don't have the capacity to pull themselves together. What might section 158 provide for? I know, potentially the Māori trustee to come and scoop along all these interests and act on their behalf. And that might sound somewhat sceptical, and it's intended to be, because if there was a concern out in our community about an entity that has the capacity right now to shadow or oversee the interests of unorganised groupings of interests, it is the Māori trustee. They're ready now. They're a nationwide entity. Now, again, some people may perceive that as a bit sceptical, but if you look at clause 158, E and F, an existing statutory body definitely would apply to the Māori trustee. It says as much in the clause 3 that follows, and it's named. A representative entity could be another organisation, let's say an iwi authority and the like. But if you look at the way in which Māori land holding interests are being coordinated, often they're being coordinated by corporate bodies, Māori corporate bodies, or the Māori trustee. So that gives me cause to say to the Minister, is there an assurance that this Act hasn't been designed around building a big mogul of an operation of the Māori trustee? And is the Māori Land Service set up to help that aspiration? Somewhat cheeky, I know, but you can see all the dynamics of the perception. And does the perception, Minister, reflect the reality? If not, I'm happy to take a clear assurance in the House, but you, Minister, it's very evident to people who are following this debate and wondering about what is underpinning some of the aspects of this particular legislation that might disenfranchise them from their interests. Now, we did also hear people who were happy to live the rest of their lives knowing that their whenua tupuna wasn't going to be utilised and was going to be there for time immemorial. Okay, that's that. But for those groupings of interests who might think that they would want to do something, I think they'd be shaking in their boots on the prospect of Big Brother, the Māori trustee, coming alongside and saying, boy, have we got a deal for you. We can make it all really very simple. All you have to do is sign over your interests to us and we'll take care of it. No worries, just spray and walk away. It's pretty much like that. So, Minister, it would be good to get an assurance. Perception is not always the reality, but Minister, it's very evident that this is one of the causes that creates a perception and a nervousness that the possibility of the Māori trustee overplaying an interest on behalf of Māori landowners, unorganised Māori landowners, could actually overshadow some of the, I guess, intended benefits of the Act.
Chair.
The Honourable Minister.
Tēnā koe, Mr.